Cool.
Recording is in progress. Yeah. All right, Edward Reardon here, and I am here with my buddy Dustin Newcomb, fellow Texan out there in Houston, Texas. What's going on, man?
Living the dream.
Living the dream, man. One day at a time. So we just finished up a project, the XENON1T, and I enjoyed that very much. And what I love most about our projects is that I can never guess what you're going to pick.
Keep you on your toes, man.
Yeah, you have a very eclectic taste. So it could be the picture, the guy that threw the pitching game while he was on LSD, or it might be the Empress from Austria, or it might be Pando the tree. It's not like we're doing all UFO targets, so it becomes predictable. It's very unpredictable, which is what I love about our work. So I appreciate that very much.
Yeah, same.
And so we did this one, the XENON1T. You just gave me feedback a couple of days ago. I've been trying to wrap my head around those sessions. I did a total 3 full sessions on that. The initial, and a tasking B and a tasking C, with some different directions you wanted to kind of go as far as the movement and the tasking goes. But as far as, because I'd never heard of this project, the XENON1T, under the mountain there in Italy, looking for dark matter and all this kind of stuff. Never heard of that thing. So it was great to go there. So what was your inspiration for that as a target?
So really started out with some esoteric stuff just on my end, just trying to put together like old ways of thinking. So old ways of thinking versus new science. So that intersection between the esoteric and science is what really interests me. And I was ruminating on the Kabbalistic tree of life and the 10 Sephiroth, and trying to kind of wrap my head around them and see what in modern day parlance we would refer to some of these emanations as, what they considered emanations. So like dark matter, the building blocks of the universe, dark energy, dark matter are these theories that we have, and that kind of led me down a rabbit hole to see what research projects, current research, ongoing projects are being done to find that out. And so I stumbled upon the Xenon project and tried to wrap my head around it the best I could, a little above my pay grade, but super fascinating stuff. And so I kind of put that in the back of my mind as like, wow, that would be something interesting to, at some point when I have more free time, delve into a little further. But you texted me if I had a target, and I was like, well, as a matter of fact,
just happen to have one right here in my pocket.
Happen to have one. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. So as far, like you're talking about, like the theory of dark matter and dark energy, I have been getting some comments from the first session, the stuff that I've put out, of people debating that, the dark energy, the dark stuff, that's not how it works. It's a gravity thing or something. These are some kind of gravity field or something along those lines. Again, sure, above my pay grade as well. I'm trying to comprehend it. But the interesting thing about that is what came through in the first session. After going through it and the feedback, and then learning about these weakly interacting massive particles that they're trying to detect, which might be dark matter or dark energy. And people are debating me on that. Hey, man, maybe you're wrong on that. And then in the second session, because you retasked me, sent me a retasking.
Yeah, I had, so in the first session, there was a lot of the, the nuts and bolts information that you were getting, right? got it kind of interlaced with a lot of some really, fantastic, I would imagine, experiential perceptions, right, that you had with this stuff. And so I wanted to kind of look at it, break it apart and look at it, theory versus the project. All right. So what is more the theoretical and everything. I went through your sessions and just kind of labeled, everything that I thought was more would be harder to get feedback on, obviously, because it's super exotic and esoteric. And then what was, hard nuts and bolts. Yeah, this is the project. These are the players. These are the processes that they were going through in order to find these signposts that point to the possibility of dark matter and dark energy.
And for the tasking for the second session, which isn't at the time we're doing this right now, I haven't posted anything from session 2 yet, but we'll go ahead and talk about them all. But what was the tasking, or once I got done with that first one, and you wanted to, you said, okay, I'm gonna put up some different some new taskings. So these weren't like, okay, move on this. These were completely new taskings. So I didn't know what they were. But what were you looking for B, for tasking B?
Yeah. So for B, I went through the first session and circled and labeled everything with a B next to it, relating to the people, mechanics, facility, anything, like I said, hard nuts and bolts, labeled it B. And then the tasking was further draw and describe the planners, technicians, the facility and its components and location. Okay. So again, trying to just parse, like take that same target reference number, but parse the theory and the experiment into two separate taskings at that point.
Okay, interesting. Because I think, let me do a quick look at session B, but I think there were some gravity elements coming in there that I was trying my hardest. Let me make sure it was in B and not in C. Yeah, it was in B that I was trying my hardest to try to decipher. And that's interesting to me because people are saying that there's might be some gravity element to this, or some gravity, some type of gravity that may be the answer and not dark matter or dark energy. So it's interesting that came up in the second session. Was that something that you were looking for
together? Yeah, I mean, I don't, honestly, I'm not a scientist. I don't know enough about the interaction between gravity and dark energy. I know that there are a lot of theories out there, and they may be complementary or parts of whatever this thing is that we call dark energy or dark matter. But yeah, I thought that was interesting. And you also kind of hit upon in that first session, I think you had a dream or something.
I had another dream, man.
Yeah,
I think we're coming on to a new theme in our projects here of some crazy dream work. But what happened with that one was, I think you had set up the taskings for me for B, and sent me a text and said, I got it set up and it'll be the task, /B. And so I went to sleep the night before I started working on that session, and I had a dream. And in the dream, you and I were going to like a restaurant or something like that. And you told me this is part of the feedback. We're going to go and meet someone who is associated with the target. And you said, just be forewarned, the guy he's not too normal, he's a little out there or whatever. But he had agreed to meet and talk about the project. And that's that's pretty much was all I could remember. So when I woke up that morning, I was like, oh, I had a dream about this target. I have to remember it because, we're coming onto a theme now, so I can't just say, oh, ain't that cool? And then move on my day. I'm like, no, I have to remember this, man, and it really, so by remembering it, writing it down, it really kind of opened up the whole next session for me, with a better drawing of the detection device, even though it's kind of round. Mine were square, but the thing is really round. But there were still elements of it there that I felt were, looking back and were pretty good, other than the geometrical shape on it. But that was a good session.
From like the first or second page of the first session, like you were on it immediately, and then it's asking it was all about the chemical compounds, the elements, the process, laboratory setting. Yeah, you even mentioned gravity fields in there too. So
yeah, which is really, it's the gravity thing is something I'm really going to look at now, because I don't know what the answer is, but I'll tell you this though, dude. In the first session, and I tried to describe this as best I could of what I was experiencing, because that illumination element that I was experiencing, it was like I was looking at it like it was over here, and I could only look this way.
mm-hmm.
It would, meaning it was difficult for me to turn and look at it. It took a lot of effort to do that.
Wonder if that, because you had mentioned, about observer effect, right? And that seems to be, consciousness and the building blocks of nature. Seem to have some type of interaction.
So. Yeah, like I'm about to observe this and then maybe have an effect or something like that. So it took effort to do that, but was able to do it to a degree. And then I had to do it again from another point in the session. And when I did it that time, that's when I saw that undulating dark mass, and it was moving. It was like some undulating thing. And I was like, I've never seen anything like this before. This is fucking unbelievable, It was freaking awesome. So like when I look at that session now, I'm like, wow, that's one of my top sessions. I had an amazing experience with this one, and so I have to sit back and wonder, was I looking at a weakly interacting massive particle, one of the WIMPs that device was designed to capture? I have to wonder about it. And for me, I would say I feel pretty positive that is what I was observing.
Time will tell for sure. I know they published data from this one. So this was 2016 to 2018 is when this one project took place. And I think in the data, they even mentioned they had some anomalous effects that caused them to go back to the drawing board and redesign the experiment. So they are working on right now, to my understanding, they're working on, experiment number 2, built a new facility, a new, more funding, and trying to go back and do it even better this time. It kind of reminds me of like the CERN project, but on a smaller basis. It
makes me wonder if maybe by setting this up, maybe we went back and had an effect on the original.
I thought about that too after I was reading through it, and I was like, wow, because I remember reading about how like Ingo Swann remote viewing the magnetron
right
underneath that university campus or whatever. I don't know if it was with SRI International or whatever, but they
And
were able to record the effects.
it
Man,
does
messed up the project.
it does make me wonder if maybe we did something like that. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
First causality. Yeah. Interesting.
So I got through that second session, and let me just really look at it. Let me look at it real quick and see where I ended off here. There was some point where I felt like I was done, at least with that one. Let me see. Here we are. What did I end up with? Okay, some of the sort of kind of utilitarian functions of what was going on. And once I got to that point, I was like, I think I've made my point here. And so then you came up with a tasking C, another direction you wanted to go. What was that tasking? Because
Right.
again, at this point, it's I'm now getting, shown what the taskings were now. So it's good for me to hear it too. So what was your intention? What were you looking for there?
So with C, I went through that first session again, labeled everything that was related to theory, assumption, unknown, or some of the metaphorical stuff you wrote about, esoteric or exotic, that kind of fit into that category or categories. And then tasking C was further connect with what is being described as dark matter / dark energy in such a way as to allow safe and unfearful communication. So I don't know what this is. I don't want my friend to get blown up, or come out, drooling. So allow for safe and unfearful communication or download of information, record any interaction, experience, or data deemed interesting to the viewer.
Interesting. Because that session, I'm looking at it now, and that session was an exploration into some ideas of a divine inspiration, and that kind of thing. So
yeah, that one was really interesting because you like we were talking earlier, you had drawn a couple of schematics, right, and placed these things in such a way which was actually reminiscent of the Hermetic Kabbalistic tree of life. So that's the diagram that they use to show how these emanations coming from the unknown, the unknowable, kind of emanate and break down into what we have here in material existence to the final stage, which is in what they deem Malkuth. This would be Earth, our physical experience here in this, plane or fucked up experiment or whatever it is that we're in. So,
where was that? Where was that I had those? Do you have that?
So that was, you were talking about, in C, you were talking about the designer. And these were unlocking elements. So you even say here, like an idea from an old manual or manuscript, and putting the work to make it. Yeah. You even say fundamental designs, even Kabbalistic designs based on Kabbalistic orders.
I said that?
Yeah. So.
Oh, shit. Oh, hang on a second. I'm not looking at the right session here. I'm looking at let me find that whole session. Wow, I'm glad we're looking at this because I had the wrong. Oh yeah, right.
Super interesting.
Oh yeah, dude, I forgot all about this. Wow. So what do you think about that then? I mean, we didn't go far enough into solve the mysteries of the universe.
Yeah, I don't know if we want to. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't. So my intention wasn't to like, find proof or to further add to my studies. These were just, I mean, the whole experiment or project was just based on this was the path that took me to that xenon experiment. It was me sitting back and my weirdo self, kind of ruminating on what these are and how they express themselves, and trying to understand, what they were diagramming out and putting together, and
Right.
what's associated, the correspondences with them.
Right.
And the closest thing I could come up with in my head, or and me not being a scientist, was like, well, if all of these are emanations from something that's unknowable, some field of unknowable whatever design, then the closest thing we have in our lexicon would be black or dark energy or dark matter.
Oh, yeah, I got you.
Because it's still like, I mean, that's the reason why they call it that, is because it's unseen. It's
right.
outside of our realm of testing, experimentation.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Oh, that's great, man. That's I feel that I did as good on these sessions because of the intention of what we were gonna go and explore.
Yeah, and there weren't any retaskings or movements that I felt like I needed to send you on these, because I mean, they were, in my mind, they were spot on. So on the nuts and bolts side, very spot on the more exotic side, or theoretical side, like there's no way to get feedback on that really, but
right.
They're interesting thought experiments, and
right.
Definitely as a remote viewer, I'm sure the experience was worthy of wasting time on. So.
Oh, it was definitely it was part of the plan. It was part of the plan. No doubt. Well, that was great. And so yeah, looks like we got another one on the shelf here. So at the end of the first session, I was inspired to draw the chariot tarot card. And it was based on this notion of harnessing of force for controlled expansion. Yeah, there's the guy right there. But I didn't finish him. I was drawing it. It was looking good. I was enjoying the drawing process. It was coming out pretty good. But then I just was like, I'm done. I'm done now. But that meant something, or you're that you found that part interesting, though, as far as what you were looking, what was part of the tasking and what you were interested in.
Yeah, trying to the idea of harnessing expansion, and so the Kabbalists, Hermeticists, kind of had this idea that these Sephiroth were emanations, right? And you can imagine them as pools of form or of ideas or whatever, and then they overflow into the next one. And so actually the chariot card is would be coming from Bina to Gebura right here. So you've got the Ein, which is nothing. You've got the boundless light, and then you've got its emanation here is Kether, which is light, or whatever. But in Western mindset, people label as God with a capital G, or whatever that force is.
Yeah.
And then there are a system of kind of like governors, right? That allow this energy or this expansion or this the emanation of blueprint of life as we know it, of the macro. And so it keeps kind of coming down and then coming down and then coming down. And then we end up, down here. We're at the very bottom of this thing. The catfish of the the tree of life, right?
The tadpoles. So it's but the notion of it is controlled expansion.
Yeah. I mean, in a layman's kind of understanding, and boiled down to kind of dumbed down. Yeah, I would say that's the idea, is that these things overflow into the next one, emanate and overflow, and eventually, you've got these high theoretical, planes of formless that slowly emanate into form, into ideas of I don't know. You've got pillar of severity and pillar of passive. So forces, the duality. What I'm trying to say, what I'm poorly articulating here, is you've got a passive force and a projecting force that eventually culminate into our existence and what we understand, the ability for us to even have this conversation right now.
Right. That notion was what was inspiring me to draw the chariot. And it was going to have the two sphinxes and the two pillars, and and I was like, well, this is going to be a long drawing. It's going to take me a couple hours to do this one, and I was kind of like,
yeah, that's crazy.
I think I need to take a nap. So yeah, we were hitting on some stuff. We hit some stuff on this one. So, but luckily, no lamps fell. No poltergeist activity to report this time around.
No visits to the secret chiefs, so it should be good.
I think we're all right. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and hit